I had a vision of an event where all the midwives in town would come, all the childbirth educators, all the doulas, an event where we would show Houston, look what we have. Because another thing I heard a lot was, you're the best kept secret in Houston. How come people don't know about you? And what that really meant was, why don't we know about midwives? It wasn't just me. Why don't we know about home birth and water birth and midwives? And Houston could come to this event and they would see everything. And they would now educate themselves about Houston has all these people are right here that help them do things that are more powerful in their birthing and in their parenting. My name is Pat Jones. I'm a certified nurse midwife, and I am president and the founder of B.I.R.T.H, which is bringing information and resources to Houston. I kept hearing from parents that the baby that was born at home was different than the babies they had had born in the hospital previously. That baby was a calmer child, more peaceful, more contented. They used a lot of different words, but I heard the same message. And I heard it for so many years that I realized there is something very different that we're doing here. And we could do the same thing in the hospital. It doesn't mean that someone has to have a home birth to get that. We could be doing that in a hospital. But how do we make those changes? How do we educate the medical model about that? I can't just go in there and say, hey, I've noticed something and you need to do these things differently. I knew that would never work. So I knew that it needed to be consumers, because over the years I have seen how we have changed things, a lot of things. Dads are now freely present. Now we don't even take women back to operating rooms. We do it in a labor room. We don't put silver nitrate in baby's eyes to prevent gonorrhea that she doesn't have. We've changed a lot of things. And we have done that because the consumer has said, this is what I want. And so I knew that in educating the consumer, we could make a change in how we treat our babies, in how we birth our babies. And we needed a powerful movement to do that. And that's how really B.I.R.T.H was founded.
We had more than 300 attendees at the birth fair last year, and we're hoping to have close to 500 this year. Welcome to birth fair. How are you doing today? Good. If you'll register, I'll get you a program and a goodie bag. In your program is the film and speaker schedule, so go ahead and take a look at that. I'll let you be in charge of that, sir. And we appreciate you coming out. And this is Birth Fair's 5th birthday, so we're kind of having it, we're having a birthday party basically. We're really proud to have the 5th birth fair. I mean, that's a huge occasion for us. So this is what they'll see. They'll sign in, they'll register and get a program and a goodie bag. And then we'll ask them if they want to give Birth Fair a birthday present. We're asking for donations to continue our efforts because we're just growing and growing, and of course our expenses are too. I'm Heidi Fabian, and I'm the Secretary of Birth, and I'm also the event coordinator for Birth Fair this year. This is the 3rd birth fair that I've worked on. I just attended the first one out of pure curiosity, and it really changed my life. I just listened to KPFT, and there was a whole mother show hosted by Courtney Krisha, and she was interviewing Pat Jones, and the thing that drew me to birth fair was water birth. I just thought that sounded really neat, you know, having a baby underwater in a bathtub or a pool, you know, and I just thought, that's cool, I want to know about that. And I don't know why. So that was the reason I went to birth fair. One of my girlfriends was pregnant and my cousin was also pregnant, so I invited both of them to go with me. And my cousin and my girlfriend backed out at the last minute, so I went by myself and I was just overwhelmed. I mean, my mother never breastfed me, you know. My experience with breasts were like pornos and swimsuit models and, you know, things that most of society sees. But here they were, like, nurturing these sweet little babies. When I got there, I realized that the water birth speaker was the first one to go, and I had missed it. And so I was really bummed because that was my whole reason for going. But so I just like walked around. I was like, oh well. And I just walked up to some midwife. I don't even know who it was. And I said, oh, do you do water births? And she goes, I'll pretty much do whatever you want. Most of us will. And I thought, what else is there? You know, are you supposed to be in a bed? And I kind of was surprised by the answer, and I just backed off, and I just backed up all the way into this little corner, and I was just looking at everything going, oh my gosh, you know, what have I done? Where am I? And then I realized that I was in the corner where the birth films were being shown. And there was this one, you know, a film of this woman on her hands and knees giving birth, and I had never seen that before. And I was like, oh my God. You know, I was just really shocked is the word. You know, I left there thinking, wow, that's pretty cool. And then several years later when we got pregnant, you know, I was like, oh, I need to call that lady I heard on the radio.
My name is Carrie Pastrano, and I've played a couple of different roles since birth started. I've been doing taking care of organizing volunteers. One of the best things is just seeing how many talented, strong women are out there. Because a lot of times you don't get to see that, especially if they're stay-at-home moms, and people kind of frown upon that a lot. Not necessarily frown upon it, but they just don't see it as being as important as going out and having a career. And then you see these women that they're stay-at-home moms, some of them aren't, but they're just very strong and powerful and knowledgeable, and it's just nice working with that group of people.
We have more volunteers than we've ever had. I mean, we actually have an issue of possibly not having enough t-shirts. And Carrie called me last night and said, I think I have to turn 6 volunteers away just because we just don't have that need, you know? It seems like in the prior years we were scrounging up to try to get enough volunteers, and maybe we had 5 or 10, but this year we have like 50. So, I mean, it's just a huge combined effort of everyone.
My name is Sarah Green, and I'm the Vice President of Birth. My role with Birth is largely outreach, which means that I'm the person who you talk to on the phone, and I arrange the meetings, the monthly meetings. I was the person who came with that idea to do monthly meetings and to try and make birth a little bit more ongoing than just the birth fair. Pat Jones was my midwife, and I was pretty passionate about the cause of birth before the organization actually started. And just from a personal standpoint, just wanting to be able to give birth to my babies in the way I wanted to without having society or family criticize me for it. So that's pretty much how I got started with the idea of it. And then when she said, come to this meeting, we're going to be figuring out a way to do something, I thought, well, I'll go. I recognize that Houston is a very medical place. We have a really great medical center here. And we have lots of great cancer centers and heart institutes and all sorts of wonderful things. But as it applies to birth, it's just too much. And the organization's place in the community is just to try and bring some kind of common sense and sanity and critical thinking to medical professionals, to midwives. The mindset of our community is not one where people go, oh, I'm pregnant, I'm gonna be having a baby, so let me figure out what I need to do. Like, that is just not, I don't think that that's part of how we think as women in this world. And I think it's more about what do I need to buy, or what am I gonna do for money after I have the baby, or things like that. And so the question of birthing options doesn't really occur to a woman often until after she's had her first baby. And a lot of times it takes a traumatic experience for her to recognize that that should be different. So I think a lot of our obstacle for the organization is just kind of infiltrating the minds of women to try and help them to understand that up front, this is something that you could think about now and, could positively impact your life. Well, we have different parts of the birth fair, and so they meet different needs. The speakers are there to give information, and that's what they mostly do. And the films do that too, in a pretty powerful way. The vendors are there. That's our way to support our community. That's our way to support people who don't really get a voice and don't really have a place otherwise. And so especially the first year, when I think back to the first year, we had all the midwifery groups represented. We had the doulas represented. These people are never at Babies R Us. I mean, they may not have the money, or they may not be welcome in those kind of environments. They're not at the big kids fair type events for the same reasons. And so it's kind of our way of presenting what's not normally presented.
My name is Tom Tompkins, and what I've been doing lately for birth is working on sponsorships, trying to get people to sponsor the birth fair. 15 years ago, when my first niece was born, my sister had a home birth. I really wasn't involved in it, but I was exposed to it, and quite frankly, I was unknowledgeable and pretty critical of it. But a curious thing happened. Several years later, a midwife came to my business. I'm in the video production business, and midwife came to my business and wanted to see about us helping her put together a birth education series. And we agreed that we would do it, and so I started working on this birth education series. I had a crew go in and videotape her doing her classes, and I became very enthralled in the information that she was teaching. And it was almost like I let the crew do the work, and I became involved in learning about home birth, because it just really spoke to me. And as a sponsorship coordinator, I try to reach businesses that are interested in reaching that community.
We have great sponsors this year. A Woman's Work, Harvest Waldorf School is a sponsor this year. I'm really pleased about that. I really like for people to know all the educational opportunities that are out there. Randy Holmes Chiropractic Center became a sponsor. That was really nice.
We have about 50 vendors this year, and they are the best in Houston. They all support natural parenting, breastfeeding, education, just how to have a better family and a better life.
We really like that a lot of very small businesses who are creating or giving great services or creating great products, we like that we made a place for them to be exposed to Houston. So we've tried to keep our vendor rates as low as we can and still try to break even. We had great vendors. Motherhood Center and Whole Foods, Nativity, Baby Signing, Gymboree, a lot of midwives, doulas, API, Attachment Parenting International, La Leche League, Young and the Restless.
I'm Janice Abel. I own Young and Restless, which is a children's consignment store that also specializes in natural parenting products. Having had a home birth with Pat was how I got more involved with the birth fair. And pretty much it goes in line with my store philosophy, which is sort of the world is a village and we owe it to each other to help moms be better moms. And birth is the first step to that. When I started this store, I didn't actually start it from scratch. I bought an existing business. But when I bought it, my motivation was to bring the community back, was to continue to have a resource for our community. I really think that the birth fair is sort of an extension of why I have this store also. It's just, it's the outlet that I needed to really continue to reach a few more people. This is my third year to sponsor the part of the fashion show, and it just has evolved. But it's rewarding because every year it's better and better.
I think our fashion show is just great fun. I love it. It's really fun to see all the different maternity clothing. I like the baby slings demonstration, and of course I love the diaper cover demonstrations.
As a sponsor, I'm primarily motivated to get the word out about cloth diapers. Being the only store, brick and mortar in Houston that offers cloth diapers is a big deal. And it seems cloth diapers do tend to go hand in hand with the crunchy mom thing. And while it's not necessary to use cloth diapers to be a wonderful mother, it just seems to be a natural companionship. We, every year, have evolved a little bit more into how to put diapers on little kids and show the audience that diapers are not the big flat pieces of cotton with pins like our moms used. And so we have a parade of toddlers in more of the new fancy diapers that are available. But this year we added a few more product lines to it. It wasn't just the diapers, because we sell silk play things, dress-up silks, and some baby legs, which are just other fashion coordinating items that we threw in the mix. And so the toddlers had elaborate ensembles that they walked down the aisle in. It was funny. But being a store that sells more than one thing, it's trying to get the word out. And being able to in that environment is wonderful.
I loved the fashion show. I thought that was pretty neat. I think you struggle, particularly as late in the game as I am, with trying to find something where you feel not quite so big as a house. More, I don't want to say sexy because I'm not really sure that I could feel sexy right now, but we'll see. I'm a part of a larger neighborhood expectant mom and mothers group, and I've heard a lot of positive things about many of the organizations and vendors that are here, and that was really the main thrust for coming. I've learned that I have a lot of options, and it can be very overwhelming for a first-time mom, but there are lots of people who are willing to take time and really walk you through the options, and that's been very helpful.
The hypnobirthing I'd like to look into, and creating a healthy environment for their kids.
I get a lot of catalogs and brochures and samples. I think I'm going to join the class for breastfeeding in 2 o'clock, and also a traditional baby wedding.
Yeah, the vaccine workshop. I don't have my first one vaccinated, but I really want to get more into being able to not defend myself, but talk to the doctors and why, I guess defend myself, because the doctors don't take, I've been thrown out of a couple of doctor offices, so I want to really get educated on that. So that was really good.
I I actually didn't know that the one group that I was really interested at looking at was going to be here, but you know, I had questions I wanted to ask midwives, like which hospitals in Houston are more natural friendly, etc.
I wanted to see the different products that everybody had for the babies, especially the cloth diapers, looking to get into more cloth diapers for her. One of my good friends has a booth here for slings. I missed it last year when I was pregnant, which I was really disappointed about. So I'm looking into a home birth for next baby, and so I wanted to get some information on that.
Well, my sister's a midwife, or studying to be a midwife, and she invited me, and I wanted to see the different booths and just see what was here. I'm having my third baby, so I was excited about, you know, seeing different options. I had 2 cesareans, but I have a great obstetrician who might let me try VBAC, actually. And then also just some like slings and cloth diapers, and I love breastfeeding, so any more information about breastfeeding, because I'm such a proponent, and then just anything. I just love the whole thing.
I'm a doula and a childbirth educator, and so I come here to tell people about my classes and what I do as a doula. Some people come to me and they're wanting a natural birth, but they're going to a hospital where I know natural birth doesn't happen. So sometimes I tell them, you know, you want to look at the culture where you're going to have your baby. You want to make sure that they're selling what you're buying. It's the big sort of thing. Talk to them about the benefits of having a doula. Talk to them about the importance of education, about learning what there is to learn and knowing what your options are, rather than just finding out about a little narrow sliver of options. Find out about all of them and then pick and choose what it is that you want. I think the most important thing for women to learn is to not plan their birth around what they don't want. We don't want an episiotomy, we don't want an epidural, we don't want drugs, whatever. I think you have to know what you do want. And I think that's the most important piece, that knowing what you don't want is the start. But you got to take a step further than that and find out what you do want. I want a peaceful birth. I want non-separation with my baby. I want to be able to be in charge of my birth and in charge of my experience. And I think that's what doulas and childbirth educators help them do. And this is incredible for people to get their information. Sometimes these women come to me and they say, well, I think I want an unmedicated birth. And usually they don't use that term. They just say, I think I don't want to have drugs. But in the back of their thinking, but, you know, oh my God, it's either, you know, epidural or make your teeth fall out of your head kind of pain. And they don't know that there's a whole range in between. So they're scared, they're uninformed, and they want to be informed. They're still at a place, a lot of them, where they think, I'm going to choose a doctor because the doctor will tell me what to do. And then they come here and they find out, no, you get to say what to do. And that's incredible. I had a couple that came by just a while ago. I met them 2 years ago at the birth fair. She was 6 weeks pregnant. And she came to me and said, I think I probably want to talk to you, and I just have some questions. Okay, well, what are your questions? I don't know. Will you just tell me what I need to know? And so we talked, and they were going to have their baby at one of the most medical hospitals in town. And we talked, I took my class, I got to be with them at their birth, and they had this lovely water birth at a birth center. And it was amazing to watch her evolution from, I'm scared, I don't know what I want, to this is what I want, this is where I'm going to do it, this is how I'm going to go about it. It's an incredibly empowering thing.
I think the majority of the people that go to birth fair already have some kind of idea what they're going to see there, what they're going to experience there. But there are those few who were like me and like someone else I know, where like a seed is just kind of planted, and they're the ones who are probably most likely to be affected, or to come to one of the monthly meetings and learn more, and then really make those choices for themselves.
They can go home and they can have discussions and they can think about it, and they can just do it on their own time. And you know, we're not going to be there to force feed them anything, and we're not going to be there to really push an agenda. We have an agenda, but it's not for everybody, and we recognize that. So
the birth fair is about the power to choose your birth. I mean, I think it is. I mean, obviously there's more to it than that, but I mean, it's about having some choices in your birth plan. And if you choose to do something different there, it's not a lost cause, because there's so many more. It's just the beginning. It's not the journey. It's everything after that. And the other thing to me is I went through 35 weeks of pregnancy with a doctor who I didn't like. And so if I really thought that my pregnancy was the all-important aspect of my child's life, you know, I was really not happy at 35 weeks. And I thought that I was stuck. I mean, until my doula pushed me, nudged me, said, you can change. And so I called them, and lo and behold, they said, sure, you can change. And so I did. But it was that nudge, that gentle nudge that I needed just to go one step further and do something positive. And I did. And I think that's what the birth fair is about as well, is nudging people into a decision that maybe they didn't think they could make.
Some people think, all they can think about is how, you know, I didn't use any pain medication. And some people just can't get past that. But for a lot of people, you know, especially women who haven't had babies yet, and I'm talking to them about it, and I can see them kind of thinking, and because they're hearing something different than what they normally hear. You know, so even if they don't decide to have a midwife at home, maybe they'll go to a birth center, or maybe they'll have a doula or somebody else, and maybe they'll talk to their doctor more and decide, you know, maybe I don't want to have an episiotomy, or, you know, maybe I want to be able to walk around instead of laying down in the bed while I'm laboring. And so I can see, you know, some of the women just kind of thinking about these different things that they might not have ever considered before.
And I still today have people who tell me that they had their baby this way, or they did something with their baby, their birth or their parenting in this way, because they came to the birth fair before they even conceived their baby, and they learned things that changed everything.
We know that it's helping, and you know, even if it just helps one person, one baby, then it's worth it. And we'd like to see it happen on a much larger scale, but it will when it's time.
The week after birth fair, we hear it here at the store too. Customers will come in for the next couple of weeks, probably still. We'll get customers who went to the birth fair and learned something new, and they're ecstatic. They're always really ecstatic about learning that one little piece of information, that they can breastfeed, that there's a way to do it that feels better. I mean, I don't mean any one thing. It's just the whole parenting spectrum. There's so many issues, and just getting that tiny little piece of permission.
I see it sometimes when I was doing the outreach meetings. We'd have women who would come for 3 or 4 months while they were pregnant, and they'd have their baby, and they'd relay their experience about it and what they'd learned, and what they saw that they did differently, that they knew that they would not have done that thing. You know, they would not have stuck up for themselves in the hospital in that situation if they hadn't had this piece of information. So little bits like that just are really neat. Because what it tells me is that those babies are better off for it, because they have a mom who is more encouraged. I hate to use that word again, but really, like, she's more powerful. She's able to better take care of her own child because she knows that that's her child, and there's no doubt about her mothering ability, because she just knows she's got it. She's got what it takes to raise this child, and it's hard to raise a child. It is the hardest job in the world, absolutely, and you need all the confidence you can get in yourself. You know, and if you can get it from birth, great. You got it from the very beginning. If I just give you the example of a woman in labor, and she's scared, and she feels incredible power from within her body, and she doesn't know what to do with it, but she has to do something with it, and so she surrenders to it eventually. You know, she might fight it for a while or whatever, but eventually she'll surrender to it. And then her baby is born. That lesson right there carries a parent through hard decision after hard decision after hard decision, when you have to constantly surrender to what you know inside you is the right thing, because you rely on that place that you found.
Pat truly believes that very important decisions are made by an infant at the moment of birth that will affect that infant for the rest of his or her life. And she's really trying to change that so that those are positive experiences, so that humanity will be better because of it.
I will remember till the day I die the joy of being in that tub with my baby, you know, in my home with my family, and you can't replace that. And I want that for everyone, because that's why we have babies, isn't it? I mean, really. I mean, we want that, and I want that for my kids. Now my daughter has seen it. Now she thinks it's perfectly normal to have babies in a bathtub, and she's a little jealous of Molly because she was born at home and she wasn't.
I think every woman should know that she is powerful enough to deliver her baby. You know, it all starts when somebody comes into the world, and I find that we all need the best possible beginning that we can have. And I think birth has the way.
I think being part of an organization where we're all so different, so many of us come from totally different ways and we do different things in our everyday life. But when we're there together, we have the same goal in mind, which is that this thing about birth is more than just a day or a moment. It's really part of your life forever.
Because everything begins at birth.
Because everything begins at birth.
Because everything begins at birth, and it does.